Thank you, everyone. Yeah, so it is a bit of a difference from learning about mineral resources. Biotech for the last couple of years has been going through a bit of a downturn. So if you're a contrarian investor, biotech, this might be the time to look at it again. It's a very cyclical industry. It goes very high, very low. And the time to buy is buy at the bottom and hold till you get back to the top. It's typically sort of between 5-7 year cycle. But if you can do that, you can make a lot of money. So a bit of a corporate snapshot. This is the race over the last 12 months. It's been flat, slightly down. We have a share price, was when I put this deck together, $1.35. It's now $1.22, I think. So it's come down. We've been bouncing around between sort of $1.20 and $1.40. We have quite a bit of cash in the bank, 17.2 million, totally funded well through to the end of 2026. Biotech's a pretty expensive sector to invest in, so capital management's very important. We don't have a huge number of shares on issue, 170 million. And importantly, we've got 32 million options on issue. Of those, 20 million of those are $1.25 piggyback options issued to shareholders about 12 months ago, and they come due end of May 2026, and they'll bring in an additional $25 million into the company, and they can fund it through to the end of the decade if used wisely. We have a huge advantage in the biotech sector here in Australia. If you spend your money here in Australia, you basically get 43.5 cents back on all the R&D spending. As a company, we spend over 80% of our spend goes on R&D. We're very capital efficient on that. Going to go for. So I'd like to start out and sort of give you an initial, why invest in Race Oncology. Biotech is a very difficult sector to invest in if you're not an expert, but there are certain key things that you can take away that really de-risk. The returns can be massive. You can have 100-fold returns or more from biotech if you succeed. Drugs that are developed can sell for multi-billions of dollars every year. The biggest selling oncology drug at the moment sells $25 billion a year. There's a lot of money to be made in that sector, but the downside with that comes risk. In the oncology or cancer space, only about between 1% and 3% of drugs developed in the laboratory ever make it to market. So what's the likelihood that a company like Race would get to market with their drug? And the answer is a lot better than you might think, because what we're developing is a drug that already has been all the way through to market. It had problems, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but we're able to take away that risk. And that's where most of the risk lies in a company like Race. We've got a whole bunch of things going on. We've got a massive opportunity, many things that can drive value. And we have, I think, sort of the unique feature in Race is a real focus on looking after our investors. And the reason for that is, apart from it being the right thing to do, is I'm the major investor in the company. I own a bit over 10%. I put all my own money into the company. I didn't start the company. I came in a few years ago as an investor. But once I came in and saw what was there, I thought, wow, this is pretty amazing, and got caught up more in the story. So I moved from being an investor to being a consultant to being the CEO. So what are we focused on? All of us here today know somebody who's been through cancer treatment, and the only thing worse than most cancer treatments is cancer. It's pretty close to death. It's really a terrible, terrible thing, but it works, or often works. It works enough compared to the alternative. So what we're focused on is making that treatment better, but protecting the patients from the damage caused by cancer treatment. Typical chemo treatment will age you between 10 and 15 years, literally age you. Physically, all your organs in all your body will get 10 to 15 years older and work as though they're 10 to 15 years older. So if you're 65 and you get cancer treatment, you'll be 80 at the end of it 3 months later. Not a good thing. So before I talk to you about what the opportunity we have, I'll just give you a little bit of a background to the drug that we have, which was called bisantrene. It was originally a chemo drug that was developed as an alternative, a safer version in the 1980s. It actually worked really well. It worked so well that it got all the way to market. Patients responded well to the drug. They ran some very large trials where it performed very well. The problem with it is it's an injectable drug, and as soon as you inject it, it crystallizes. And that's not a good thing. If you have something that crystallizes in your veins when you inject that drug in, then that's going to cause a lot of problems, and that's exactly what happened. The company that originally owned it persevered for about 10 years trying to fix this. They weren't able to fix it. They came up with kind of a workaround, but it was not commercially viable, and they eventually ended up dropping it. So what have we done as a company? We've picked up this asset. This is before my time, but in my time, what we've gone back into the laboratory, used all the advances that have occurred in science over the last 40 years to figure out how to solve this crystallization problem. And this is what RC220 is. So it no longer crystallizes in the vein. We've treated the first patient just recently with this new formulation. It's actually a big project, totally fine, had no problem, solved that crystallization problem. The great thing about this is this gives you new intellectual property. You have a patent on this new formulation. It's actually technically a new drug. And so you've got a 20-year life. So you're starting quite a long way into the development. We're able to also leverage on how to best use this drug. There's been a huge amount of research. Very intelligent people have spent decades and decades working on how to cure cancer. It's probably the most difficult question in medicine, how to do this. But there's been a lot of advances. There's still a lot to go. But in that process, there's been a lot of discoveries that we can build upon and identify where to best use it. And that's very kind of attractive. So first thing we did, or one of the first things we did, is we discovered that it actually works really well with one of the most widely used chemotherapeutic agents called doxorubicin. It's a terrible drug. Its nickname by the doctors and nurses is the Red Devil. I hope nobody here has had the Red Devil, because it really is nasty. It really causes a lot of problems to all the organs in your body, but particularly to your heart. But the big thing upside to it is it's very effective across a wide range of different cancers. It really does kill cancer very well. So we've found that when we combine it with our drug, we can actually make it work better as an anti-cancer drug. 85% of all cancers, we screened a very large number of different cancer types. And for those that it doesn't improve, it's basically a measurement error. We can't measure the small improvement, typically because either RC220 or doxorubicin works so well, it covers up the other. Across all sorts of different cancers, they're all the sort of major cancers that you might see. Before I go on to the next property of RC220 is this question about why we need to protect patients from cancer treatment. I've mentioned before you about it ages, but the organ that is most sensitive to this damage is the cardiovascular system, or your heart. But it's really an organ system. It's all the arteries, the lungs, the skeletal muscle that goes into that. And it damages, doxorubicin in particular, damages that. The first dose you get, it knocks your heart over, and the more doses you get more and more knockover of that. It takes about between 8 and 11 years of normal ageing decline equivalent off you through a typical cycle of 4 cycles of this drug. It's so bad that doctors will stop using it even if your cancer's responding really well to treatment. When you get to 4 cycles, they'll say, I can't give you any more because it'll put your heart too much at risk. So you can measure that damage by a thing called VO2 peak, which is like VO2 max, which some people may have heard. You get on a treadmill or a walking thing, measure the oxygen uptake, the carbon dioxide production. You can measure how much damage has been done to the heart. We're going to use this in our coming trial to show the benefit. And the reason why we might be interested in this is one of the discoveries that we made in the lab was that RC220, not only can it improve the treatment of the cancer, it can also protect the heart from damage. So you get a 2-for-1. So you get better treatment of the cancer and you protect the patient from the damage that this drug causes. And this can become really an important thing. So this is showing here tissue from the heart, no treatment, you don't see any of the fibrosis, which is scar tissue, which shows up here in grey or very little. When you've got doxorubicin, you get a lot of scar tissue in the heart, which is not surprising. That's one of the reasons why it damages your heart. When you add in RC220, you actually protect from that scar tissue, and then the heart is protected. So a really interesting opportunity. You might say, well, that's great. Why would you do this? Apart from the fact that it's a great thing for patients, it's a massive market. Doxorubicin is a generic, costs between sort of $75 to $200 a dose, depending on where you are in the world. Just that, at that price, the annual market for that is US $1.5 billion a year. It's one of the very few or over $1 billion generic drugs on the market. It's been on the market since 1972. It works. It's what doctors turn to when they have a cancer they don't have targeted therapy for, or an immunotherapy. They turn to a drug like doxorubicin. Just based on primary market research that we've done, the annual revenue of this is off the charts as far as, I can't actually come up with a number that doesn't sound ludicrous. Just on the cheapest price that we could identify for selling the drug, which is $15,000 a dose, which is very, very cheap for a new cancer drug. Most of them sell, $50,000 a dose type thing. 4 cycles, 3% market, $7 billion a year in sales. And in the pharmaceutical industry, sales is basically profit. So what are we doing at the moment? We've run 2 phase 2 trials in acute myeloid leukemia, which I hope nobody here has ever had or have anyone in their family have. Terrible disease. Untreated, from diagnosis to death, is 8 weeks. It's an incredibly difficult cancer to treat. We've run these 2 trials, 40% in really heavily pre-treated patients. So the more treatments that patients go through, the more difficult it is to treat, and we got 40% in both of those. Excellent. That result, if we ran a phase 3 trial, which we could tomorrow, if we had the money, of course, that would be an approvable success rate by quite a long way, actually. We're now currently running a phase 1 trial for this cardioprotection anti-cancer opportunity in all solid tumours, any cancer basically that it's not a leukemia. We've got a potential investigator-initiated sponsored trial in acute myeloid leukemia coming up, and we've also got some other development going in, which I haven't got time to go through. I won't talk too much about this trial because it's a bit more technical, but we're right into the middle of this. We're in the first part of it, part 1. We'll find out if the first patient's been dosed successfully, the combination of doxorubicin and RC220 has gone ahead, all safe. It's really great. We've de-risked as we're going forward. Got a whole lot of milestones coming up. One of the problems of investing in biotech is you sometimes go long periods of time waiting for the readout of trials. We're in the lucky that these are open-label trials, which means we get the results as they're going along. They're not double-blinded. And so we are able to keep our shareholders updated. There's a whole bunch of news flow to come through the rest of the year, and it will continue on through 2026. So what are the key highlights? We overcome the most difficult thing that's investing in biotech, which is clinical risk. Solves a real major significant health problem, which is this damage caused by the heart, and improving anti-cancer, so that we're not having to create a market. The market already exists. We're just solving the problem. Builds on a massive market. Obviously, the sale potential is something you guys can work out on your own. Low-cost development, the opportunity for rapid acceleration. There's been no drug ever developed that's like this. We think that we'll have a lot of support, and so far all the conversations we've had with the FDA, there's been a lot of support for a drug like this. And we have a management that's invested in the company. I'm taking half my salary in cash, taking it in options. I'm here to see this succeed. I'm not here to get rich mining out the investors. And we have a really amazing team of scientists and management at board level to actually make this happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Daniel.